All right, welcome everyone to RT615. This is an office class this time. I'm going to be recording from my office or at home in my home office. But welcome to the course. We're laid out for the next 7 weeks, 8 weeks for those that aren't graduating, 7 for those that are here in the spring. But for anyone watching this course, whenever you watch it, there are 7 sessions for the course, so you won't be missing anything that I didn't add here. If you have the longer course, I give everyone a week, an extra week for doing your writing as we get near the end. But for this class, we're going to spend today talking about our research question, asking questions and finding answers is how I've titled it. Today, for your assignment, if you have seen the schedule, I want you to be reading this book. This is our textbook, our primary textbook. Though there's one other book that you're going to be reading. This is our textbook. The Turabian version 9 is what we're switching to here at Calvary. So pick up that edition and make sure you have it, because that's what I'm going to be referencing as I go through the course here for us. For next week, you're going to be introduced to resources for biblical studies, meaning research. You're going to be reading Turabian 3 and 4, chapter 3 and 4. You're going to come back with a research topic. We're going to talk about the course in a minute here, but next week, you're going to have your research topic. You're going to do practice number 1, and I'm going to show you that in the schedule here in a minute. And then you're going to read chapters 1 through 3 of this book, Continuity, Discontinuity. So I hope you have been looking it through and enjoying it. We're going to be working our way through that book as well. But for this session, this section, I want us to spend our time introducing the course. But before we do that, let me just lead us in a word of prayer. Let's honor the Lord. Father, we thank you for the skills that we gain in studying your word and then in interacting with others. Father, as we study your word and we see your truth, we want to communicate that to others. So that's what this course is about, Lord, to do our research well, interact with those that have differences of opinion as well as those that support our opinion, and affirm your truth. And so help us to develop even greater skill in doing that. And then in the communication of writing it clearly, speaking it clearly for sure, but writing it for sure is, Lord, what we want to be about in this course. So help us toward that end, me to communicate clearly, the students to understand that communication, and then write your truth and present it to many more people through the years. For Christ's sake, we pray. Amen. Amen. I encourage you to open a copy of the syllabus and the class schedule, or open that on your computer. If you have, I'm going to try to share the screen and talk about that. If I can find it, here we go. Why do I not see it there? There we go. Here's the syllabus for the course. Let me just walk that through and not read it in detail, but trust that you'll read it as well. I encourage you to look along on your copy or on the screen. We are a 3-hour course. Excuse me. It's legacy in the sense that we're not sitting in a classroom. That's why I'm in my office. That's why you're at home watching this whenever you can. I hope to have each week's lecture presentation presented sometime Monday, each Monday. So check back in later in the afternoon on Mondays, and you'll be able to see the work for that week. Things are due Friday, Monday, probably be working as I'm processing this course. If you can get them done on Friday, great. If you need the weekend, great. Just get them in by the next Monday and follow along the course. I'm not as much a stickler for details as I am for you getting the material done, the assignments done, and done in an efficient way. If I have to start bugging you for assignments, then I'll be taking it off late for being late. But here's our schedule. For a research methods course, presents a unique approach comprising choosing, narrowing a topic, searching the literature, evaluating the sources, working with scripture, organizing findings, writing well, documenting properly, preparing to publish, and working with editors and publishers. Well, we're not going to do the last part. In fact, we've revised the description for this course for the next time it's presented. The objectives we've listed there for the course. The PLO, Program Learning Objectives, are for this department here at the seminary, Bible Theology Department. And then A, 1, 8, 10, whatever the numbers are after the A, are referring to the assignments here in the schedule, in the assignment. Required material, the Bible, Feinberg's book. This one, Continuity, Discontinuity, it's older. It might be out of print. You can get it on Amazon for sure, definitely. It's going to be a little bit more expensive. It seems like in some paperbacks, but you're going to see it's a rather substantive paperback with a lot of excellent articles about a significant and hermeneutical question that we have here in life. And presenting from our perspective here at Calvary by Feinberg and others as they write. In fact, I'm reading another book now on the use of the Old Testament in the New, and this volume is quoted. Several articles are really of good note. So I really encourage you to take that course, assignment with as much time as you can give it, even though our primary focus is here on Turabian, the 9th edition. The assignments are listed 1 through 9. Let me just go through them. Let me know any questions that you have about specific assignments. Give me a call, stop by my office when I'm here on Wednesdays and Thursdays here at school, or give me a call and we'll set up a time to meet. Definitely, we could meet through Teams. We could meet, call on the phone. We definitely can text or email. So let me know any questions you have. As we look through the syllabus, assignment 1, Turabian formatting and writing style practice. Let me flip to the class schedule and show you what I'm talking about there. Where do I go? All right, here, if you can see the class schedule, on the left, the week number, in the center, the discussion, the textbook reading in parenthesis, and off to the right are assignments due. I have them due on Mondays, so next Monday, the 17th, I mentioned Friday. If you want to get things worked by Friday, do it that week, then it'll be ready the week after, but technically Mondays is when things are due. So for next Monday, you can see off to the right, research paper topic and practice number 1. Now look back to the left and you're going to see we're going to discuss practice 1 there in the middle, Turabian, chapters 15 to 16 and 20. So you go to Turabian, find those specific chapters, read them for this next week, do practice 1 in Canvas. Let me know any questions that you have, and that's how I'll be tracking. So those are relative to Turabian, those practices, all the way down, and so you can see the practices when we're going to discuss them, when they're due. So for next week, you're going to do practice note number 1 in Canvas, the week after 2, 3, 4 through 5, and then that last week, your review of Continuity, Discontinuity, that book that we have. All right, I'm going to go back. Then I want to go back to this, but it's not presenting. Back to the syllabus is where I want to go. every week for 5 weeks, you're going to have those practices, and they're going to take you through Turabian as well as thinking about writing, because Turabian at the back has several chapters on writing style that you're going to be reading. So you're going to be asked to think through, meaning look at each of the chapters and do assignments, so read all the chapters of Turabian, everything. There are several chapters that don't apply to us as we go through Turabian. In that here at Calvary and in the seminary at Calvary, we do not follow the notes, we do not follow the author date style. The chapters that deal specifically with author and date, we don't use. We use the notes bibliography chapters. So you'll hear that when we get a little further into today and talk about it. Number 2, research topic. You're going to choose and submit a graduate level research topic of interest in biblical studies. It's something that you would be interested in researching. The final product for this course is to write what we call a syllabus. You're laying out your understanding of the topic and how you're going to approach it. Just like what we have here for our class syllabus, that's the topic and how we're going to approach our study of that topic. Let me show you an example. Well, let's just continue on because you're going to see that in a minute. But next week, I want you to propose a topic, and I'm going to interact with you in Canvas. I might not give you a grade the first time, meaning I'm going to say, no, narrow it a little bit more, narrow it a little bit more. And so let's come back and forth to one another relative to a topic that you're interested in studying. Now, I could suggest some for you, but here's the vision of the course. It's if you had to write a thesis and you're required at the Master of Divinity level here, you aren't required a thesis for your MABT course, but you could write one, as well as this is going to be a methodology that you could follow with any course paper. Now, maybe a professor has some unique formatting issues, but the methodology of researching a topic and writing on it, you're going to benefit from this course. But specifically, when we think of writing toward an objective, I'm thinking of you writing a master's level thesis, not a dissertation. That's graduate level or doctoral level, and the doctoral research courses have their own methodology. You're going to add on to it as you go on to your doctoral work. But here, the research topic is what you come back next week. The week after that, an initial bibliography. I'm going to give you some criteria. The number of pages here, you're going to be looking through perhaps that many pages. You're not going to be reading them at all, but you're going to be beginning a bibliography of resources that you would need to reference as you do this study and write your master's thesis. Detailed outline and abstract. Well, we're going to talk about what that means. You're going to give it an outline, but you're going to start with a scratch outline first, and you're going to start laying out your chapters. That's your fourth. You're also going to write an abstract. Fifth, you're going to actually lay out the chapters, the body paragraphs of them. I'll show you what that means as we get down there, but you're going to start laying out your syllabus. You're going to come back, and then you're going to write the first draft of your thesis, the complete first draft. It's going to be about 10 to 20 pages total with your frontispiece, your abstract, your title page, your abstract, and your bibliography at the end. And the body's probably going to be about 14, 15 pages of paper. Not necessarily all folded in. You're going to see that in a minute. This revised draft, we're not going to do for this class. Item 7. 8, presentation of research. Yes, you are. I'm going to ask you at the end of the class just to sit down with me and let's have a discussion. What this is simulating is if you're writing your thesis, you would be assigned an advisor after you make your proposal. And your proposal's accepted, then the dean of the seminary would assign a first reader and an advisor. And that advisor would sit down to you after you present your syllabus and say, where are you going? And we'd have a discussion. And so I want to do that for us here. And then number 9 is to write a review of continuity, discontinuity. We're going to be working through the chapters, sometimes talking about it, sometimes not, but definitely an opportunity for us to dialogue about that book. And you write just a brief critical review of it at the end. Questions about any assignments, let me know. For grading, here's the grading criteria and the scale that I use for the course. I'm just realizing I've got the wrong syllabus here. Let me get the correct one. And that's the wrong one too. There we go. All right, now let me share these here. Wow. All right, here's a research methods course. Let me see what might be different. Yes, now this looks better. I have eliminated that assignment 7 and reallocated them. There's only 8 assignments. The the revision is not part of it. That's what's different. All right, now this looks better. And our tentative schedule, the other schedule, let's go back and make sure we're looking at that correctly. Yeah, that's what we were looking at. As you look at the schedule, let me highlight on the right for next week, research topic, the week after, your initial bibliography. After that, an outline and abstract assignments. The week after that, the leading body paragraphs of your syllabus, of your research project. Then the complete syllabus. And you're also adding your practices. And then that final class week, somewhere in that week, we're going to sit and talk together. Those that are completing a degree, then you'll be finished with the course there by the 29th, or that Monday afterwards is what we want to do. Questions about the class and how we're going to work our way through that, please let me know. You can't respond right now, but let me know as we get into it. One more thing I want to show you before we go to our PowerPoint is the final product that we want to get to. There we go. This is the one I want. All right, you should be able to see a file, You Are the Light of the World, How Does the Sermon on the Mount Relate to the Church Age? Written by John Huxman, a number of years back, 2014, when I was his advisor for his class. Notice the title page is different because a master's thesis format of the seminary is different. You're going to write your syllabus like this, and I'm going to give you instructions for how to do that. Then you're going to come to an abstract page, brief summary of the article of the research project. Then here's your contents page. it will look like this. Your paper will look like this. Notice we have 13, 14, summary conclusion, 15 pages starts his bibliography. Now he follows the formatting for how to lay out chapter 1, introduction. Notice back here, chapter 1 is titled Introduction, Views of the Sermon on the Mount, Evidence. So there's a title for each chapter. It's like each is a book. In our style guide, you only have a table of contents, a contents page, if your paper is 20 pages or more. True at the college as well as at the seminary. For all of your seminary papers, you don't have a contents page. This is a unique animal for a long document like this, anything over 20 pages, or in this case, for your master's thesis. And so you're going to lay it out just like you're writing your thesis. Maybe you're 19 pages, you still got to have a contents page, still need to have an abstract, or the number of pages. Notice the page number at the bottom, different. And we're going to format them that way. In the frontis matter, and now when we get to our first page of our first chapter, notice the page numbers at the bottom switches to second page, and now the page numbers at the top. So you're going to learn some formatting in Word or whatever your word processor is to be able to do that. This student began in his syllabus talking about the problem, the research question, and then presents his thesis, then talks about the purpose and procedure. So this first chapter is going to be a little bit longer because you're laying out how you're going to approach the problem. What is the problem, how you're going to approach it. So he's already up to page 5. Chapter 2, views of the Sermon on the Mount. And now he's going to present what he understands are the different views toward the problem, different solutions he has to approach, and briefly discuss those and what issues he's going to have to deal with and what questions he's going to have to respond to. But notice it a little shorter. Chapter 3, evidence from Matthew. Now notice his sections are all here, but he's just saying how he's going to have to study it. He's not presenting any results yet because he hadn't studied it in depth. He knows that's where he has to go, but he doesn't know what exactly he's going to say when he gets done. Then the sermon's relationship to different ages. He felt that was an important aspect to cover. Pastoral significance. This is a master's thesis at the in our pastoral studies department here. The MDiv, Master of Divinity, and so it has to have that practical element. Now, careful with yours. Perhaps you won't have that chapter there. If you're going to write one for your master's here, then yes, you'd have to have one. Our Master's of Divinity degree is a pastoral degree, ministry degree. Chapter 6, summary, conclusion, real short, real brief. Bibliography, and notice the division, single volume. That's how he divided that down. Now, books in a series or multi-volume. So you have sections, and they're going to be alphabetized in each section, not as a whole. So you start over with A again on electronic sources. Articles and essays, primary sources, unpublished sources. So rather lengthy syllabus. That's what your final assignment, not the final one of the continuity, discontinuity, and not your presentation, but your final written assignment as you turn that in. Let's go back to our schedule again. Down here at the bottom where it says complete syllabus, that's what we were looking at. That's that final assignment that you're going to have. All right, let's get out of these files. And come back to our course here. In this session, we want to talk about, I've got Canvas here. Let me walk you through Canvas and make sure you understand what you're seeing here. All right, I'm in the student view. If you're unfamiliar with Calvary's Canvas, as you come into the course, down the left-hand side are links to different files, different structures in the course. All the courses begin on the syllabus page. So I put a picture there. You scroll down and you can click on the blue link and it'll open a syllabus file, or it'll open your class schedule. You click on it. It opens it up. To close it, has the word close to the right-hand side of the screen. I've structured the course around modules, so each week is a different module, and in that module you find the video, which you found for today to be watching this, and you click on it, and in it would be the link for the video, as well as any handouts that I've used, and then the PowerPoint that I used is there as well. Each week is structured the same way, where I have the class session and then the assignments rather, that I introduced that day will be present there. Going back to the syllabus page, you'll notice as you scroll down the syllabus page, all the assignments are listed chronologically. So this week, these are the 2 assignments. This week, here's the 2 assignments. That week, 3 assignments. Next week, 2, next week, 2, next week, 2, until you get all the way through the course. You can work through the course however you want to. Yes, you could go to the assignments, but you don't have the due dates listed. Your grades and different people. Files, you can always find any file that I upload in files, but the easier one, I think, is to go to modules, and you can find the file by when it was used. Questions that you have about the course, be sure and let me know. And I'll log out of Canvas here. But let's talk about research. Yep. All right, I want to make sure I'm doing this right. That's what I want to get. What we're doing when you have research, let me back up. Research is, in fact, the world's biggest industry. Those who can't do it well or evaluate that of others will find themselves sidelined in a world increasingly dependent on sound ideas based on good information produced by trustworthy inquiry and then presented clearly and accurately. So we need to know how to do research. We get to this graduate level and that's what we're dealing with. Reading the research of others, for sure, writing our own research results is what we have to do. What we're doing is thinking through our print. Now, when you approach a research topic, there are several constructs that you need to think of behind just that specific task of writing or reading, researching, and writing. What is research? In the broadest sense, we do research whenever we gather information to answer a question that solves a problem. In the broadest sense, problem 1 could be, where do I find a new head gasket for my '65 Mustang? Well, you got to research. Problem, I need a new gasket. Question, where can I find one? Look in the yellow pages for an auto parts store. Then call to see if they have one in stock. You're doing research. Another problem. I'm curious about the new species of fish that I heard about in the newspaper or in a magazine. So what do? You search the internet for articles in academic journals, articles in popular magazines to learn a little bit more information. You're doing research. Every time you do a Google search, you're doing research. You've got a question, a problem, and you find a resource to give you an answer. We do research every day, and though we rarely write up our research, we regularly rely on those who have. Those people that have put together the yellow pages, did research. What are all the phone numbers for all the auto parts stores? And they've organized them. Well, why do we write it up? Why do we write up our research? Well, we write to remember. We want to remember what we've read, what we found, what we've discovered, but we want to write to understand. Now, some of us understand more intuitively. We read and we process it all in our brain a little bit more than others. Most of us, though, it has to process through our fingertips. We have to get another sense involved to really understand something, to see the larger connections, to make a flow to the thought. We write to test our thinking. We put down a hypothesis and we can see it. To get our thoughts out of our head and onto paper where we don't see what we really can think about a topic in our head helps us to see it. In short, we write out our research to remember more accurately, understand better, and evaluate what we think more objectively. Now, we're writing for ourselves at that point, but we can also write for others. Why do we need to write a formal paper? Well, you got an assignment. You're in college, you're in seminary rather. The most important reason for learning to write in ways that readers expect is that when you write for others, you demand more of yourself than when you write for yourself alone. By the time you fix your ideas in writing, they're so familiar to you that you need help to see them not for what you want them to be, but for what they really are. You'll understand your own work better when you try to anticipate your readers' inevitable and critical questions. How have you evaluated your evidence? Another question, why do you think it's relevant? Or another question, what ideas do you have, but you've rejected as you've done your research? Well, writing is also thinking. Writing up your research is finally thinking with and for your readers. I mean, we write primarily to be read, and we write primarily to be read by others. So therefore, we have a relationship. We need to connect with our readers. We need to think of our writing as conversing with our readers. Good writing is an imagined conversation. You're talking back and forth. Now, let me compare that to the preaching, speaking, teaching. In teaching, you can actually ask a question you get a response for, and you anticipate the question. Or they ask you a question and you throw another question back at them, or you respond. There's a conversation going on. When you preach, you must think of your audience. In order to connect the truth with them, you must think about them and their lives and how they might be processing this truth and how to organize your communication so they get it. Because they can't necessarily have a conversation with you at different points. So you have to help them to process their thoughts, to eliminate things that they should eliminate, and to add things they should be thinking about. Good writers make proper informed judgments about their readers' needs and their readers' goals. Good writers envision a reader when they write. Keep that in mind. Therefore, we need to understand our role as a researcher. Since few people read formal research papers for entertainment, you have to create a relationship that encourages the reader to see why it's that important, why it's in their best interest to read your research. I mean, you're going to wade through some rather pithy articles here in continuity, discontinuity. How did they engage the reader? How did they help the reader to think through the topic? Or not, if you don't think the writing was done well. 3 reasons for offering facts to your reader. Well, I found something new. Understanding your role, excuse me. Don't have this on the screen. I found something new as a researcher, and I'm going to give you that information. This offer assumes that your reader wants to know the facts that you found. They might not, though. But even then, cast yourself as the writer in the role, researcher and writer in the role of someone who's found something that your reader will find interesting, and that your readers are people who want to know about your topic, your findings. Whether they really do or not, you got to imagine that. Secondly, you could be saying to the reader, I found a solution to an important practical problem that you and I both have, or that you have. You're saying to the reader, here are some facts that'll help you do something to solve a problem that you care about. You, the writer, are then the professional giving the reader practical advice that the reader needs to hear. That's your role. A third one is imagining the reader's role in this connecting with our readers. You establish your side of the relationship with your readers when you adopt one of 3 roles. I have information. Can help you fix information for you, the reader. I can help you fix a problem. I can help you understand something better. But we have to present our research in a way that motivates the readers to play the role that we have imagined for them. So what's their role? Some people say, entertain me. Again, I didn't have that on the screen, excuse me. But those we write for want more than just entertainment. Help me solve my practical problem. Well, yeah, you can easily see that in the counseling department. Help me solve my problem. So let me describe the problem and the solutions and evaluate those that have had proposals for the solution to the problem. Or a third thing, help me understand something better. And that's usually where we are right here in the Bible and theology department here in seminary. Ultimately, the reader will care about your documents, your research writing, only if you can show how your documents serve as evidence that helps you answer a question that's important to understanding something important to the reader. Our academic readers, those that we're primarily writing for, will almost always adopt that third role. The readers will think you fulfilled your side of the social contract, reader, writer, relationship, conversation. They'll feel that you've satisfied your side of the contract when you've treated them as who they think they are, scholars interested in greater knowledge and better understanding. I mean, that's who's going to read your article. That's who's going to read your thesis. That's who's going to read your paper. You're concerned with your particular community of readers, with their interests and expectations, improving their understanding based on the best evidence you can find. That's the social contract that all researchers must establish with their readers. Well, how will the social contract thinking help us in our research and writing? That's our question. So we shift to asking questions, finding answers. Let's lay out just roughly a project, a research project. We're going to plan it. An overview. First, you find a topic specific enough to let you master a reasonable amount of information on it in the time that you have. Secondly, you question that topic until you find questions that catch your interest. Third, you determine the kinds of evidence that your readers will expect you to offer in support of your answer. And fourth, you determine whether you can find that evidence. Let me read a quote from a book on research. that summarizes real well the process here. You'll discover that you can't march through those steps that I just read there in the neat order that we present them. You'll think of a tentative answer to your research question before you have all the evidence you need to support it. Okay, that's just the natural proposing an answer, a thesis, to a problem, going out and trying to find if that is really the answer, somewhat deductively we're working with. As we do our research, we go, oh, wow, that's not really it, or I got to refine it. All right, they go on. When you think you have an argument worth making, you may discover that you need more and better evidence from other new resources. You may even modify your topic. Doing research is not like strolling along an easy, well-marked path to a familiar destination. It's more like zigzagging up and down a rocky hill through overgrown woods, sometimes in a fog, searching for something you won't recognize until you see it. But no matter how indirect your path, you can make progress if at each step of the way you plan for predictable detours and maybe even avoid some of them. All right, research is not a stroll in the park. It's more a journey up and down a lot of hills to find a final destination. Well, look back at that slide. We got to find a topic specific enough. So our first task in this week is to narrow a topic down. Start with a topic, propose it, and let's see if you've narrowed it enough for a valid initial topic to start researching. Question, now read the rest of it there. Specific enough to let you master a reasonable amount of information on it in the time that you have, in the limits that you have. For a master's thesis here at Calvary, 50 to 85 pages paper. That's what you're going to write. What would you need to narrow the topic down to in order to be able to say something of substance and depth and credibility in that short amount of work? Or have you narrowed it too much and you end up with a 30, a 20-page paper? Well, say more. Or you need more research. That's usually the case. You haven't really dealt with the topic as deeply as you need. I find more often you need to narrow the topic more and be more specific. And then as you get into the research, you're going to find the depth of the research. That second one, question that topic until you find questions that catch your interest. It's a topic, faith in Christ. Well, what am I going to write about faith in Christ? And so you're narrowing the topic down more. You're being more specific. Determine the kinds of evidence your readers will expect. Well, what Bible passage do I need to go to? What other theological positions would differ with my position that I need to deal with? That my audience, why would they differ with it? What is their context? And then determine whether you can find that evidence. So the process of research is having a topic, a question, and bombarding it with questions till you find a question that is significant enough for your readers to say, I'll read that, I want to know that. Either solve a problem that I have or deepen my understanding. So we go from topics to questions. From an interest to a topic. I'm interested in writing about the deity of Jesus Christ. Well, still too broad. I want to take from a broad to a focused topic. A research paper is an interest stated specifically enough for you to imagine becoming a local expert on it. So we find a topic for an advanced project, from interest to a topic. Let me back up here. You eventually show why your topic should be of interest to others. I understand that, but you find what interests other researchers. You get online and you find in papers and popular articles and research projects what is of current interest to others and what would be of interest to you. Maybe you skim the latest issues of journals in your field, meaning you find a theological journal, a biblical studies journal, and you find out what was of interest to them. not just for articles, but also for conference announcements, topics, calls for papers that they're asking for, because that's what's currently being discussed. One topic I ran across the other day, natural law and a dispensational response or understanding of natural law theory. Topic. I'd need to narrow that a lot more. You investigate the resources that your library is particularly rich in. So go and ask the librarians to how to find current topics that people are interested in your field of study. From a broad topic to a focused one. A topic is probably too broad if you can state it in 4 or 5 words or less. Caution, don't narrow your topic so much that you can't find information on it. So we need to focus. From focused topic to a question. Ask about the history of your topic. How does it fit into a larger developmental context? When you read this book on continuity, discontinuity, you're going to be confronted with history right away. The history of the discussion and where are we at currently. But what is its own internal history of that topic? Ask about its structure and composition. How does your topic fit into the context of a larger structure or function as part of a larger system? How does its parts fit together as a system? Third, ask how your topic is categorized. How can your topic be grouped into kinds? And we group things in biblical context, this author, or a theological concept, soteriology, eschatology, ecclesiology. How does your topic compare and contrast with others, with other topics, other books, other writers? Turn positive questions into negative ones. You've got a positive question, statement, and turn it into a question. Jesus Christ is divine. Why would Jesus Christ not be divine? Why should he not be divine? All right, you're working with it. You're playing with your topic in order to think it from different angles. Ask what if and other speculative questions. Ask questions that are suggested by your resources. Questions that build on argument, questions that reflect disagreement. Evaluate your questions that you're asking about your topic. Look for questions whose answers might make you, and ideally your readers, think of your topic in a new way. And the most significant question is, so what? So what if you prove that Jesus Christ is divine? He's God. What difference does it make? Wow, that's obviously the most important one, especially when you think of your audience. Your purpose is to convince them they need a deeper understanding of that concept, or your purpose is to convince them that in order to really change their life and become more sanctified, they need to understand the concept of holiness. All right, different responses to the so what, but that's most important. Why would others think it's a question worth asking? You might not be able to answer this question early on, and in fact, you probably won't. But the question forces you to look beyond your own interests to consider how your work might strike other people. Name your topic, add an indirect question, and answer the so what question. Let me just summarize what I said. What you're writing about, and start a statement. I'm writing on the topic of, and fill it in with all the modifying prepositional phrases that you need. What do you know about it? Now look at the sentence. I'm working on the topic of the deity of Christ as understood by Jehovah's Witnesses, because I want to find out not only what they believe, but how to communicate the truth to them in their construct. So you're developing your topic and the question which directs you to the solution. Why do you want your reader to know and care about it? Here's the so what. I'm working on the topic of the deity of Christ in the understanding of Jehovah's Witnesses because I want to find out why they think erroneously, what will help them to think correctly in order to help my reader to better understand who Jesus really is. All right, that's the grid we're going to work through, and I want you to think of as we do our different assignments here in the research. But for next week, I want you to propose what you think is an appropriate research topic. And it won't be just a word, and it might not just be 4 or 5 words. It might be a little longer. It won't be a full sentence. That's a thesis statement. I want you to just deal with the topic. Think of a sentence. Think of the noun phrase that's the topic, the subject, and then the verb phrase is the rest of your thesis. That's your whole opinion. Just come back with the topic. Is what we're going to be looking at next week. Let me know any questions that you have about that assignment. I'm going to shift now to introducing our exercises. For next week, I want you to come back and having done practice 1, which is Turabian chapters 15, 16, and 20. Here in Turabian, now let me shift back to full screen and stop sharing here. Oh no, it's not what I wanted. I think I'm back. Hope I'm back. 15 and 16 here in Turabian, so start reading it. We're definitely going to work through in the opening chapters 1 through 14 are the writing process, and that's what we're going to do for my lectures and our discussion each week. But chapter 15, general introduction to citation practices and the basic templates. Then 16, where does 16 start here? Gone too far. We're actually getting into the format. The notes bibliographic style, and that's what we use here at Calvary for our papers. You use a bibliography at the end and you have footnotes at the bottom. Then chapter 20, we're going to be working through the style. It's chapter on spelling. One of the big problems that we have when we get to research, we just want to write, and we want to write. Well, we don't write well, and we have too many mistakes, and we don't help people to find the accurate sources. So we're going to talk a lot about formatting, and there's a lot of details there. You got to spell accurately. You want to get the mistakes out of the way so that people aren't distracted by those items, and they could focus on what your words are, your thinking, your conclusions, your argumentation. And so you want to work on that. But introduction to practice 1, read through those 2 chapters at the beginning, 15 and 16, and then chapter 20. Let me introduce our questions that we have relative to formatting. Now I got to share the screen again. Yeah, I've got them here somewhere, but there they are. Now, I hope you can see this page from a book written by D.A. Carson. It's the title page. When you're going to select information for making a footnote or a bibliographic entry, you have to go to the title page and the copyright page. So I've reproduced this for you. You use the information from this title page. The Gospel According to John is the title, the author, D.A. Carson, and the publisher is at the bottom. Notice it's not only here in America, Grand Rapids, but it's also a company that has an office in Cambridge, UK. You list just the office that's in the country that you live in, that it's published in. So we would list William B. Erdman's, Grand Rapids, Michigan. Go to the next page. Now we flip to the copyright page and we see it's copyrighted by the author, 1991. That's the date we want. There's no later date, and other information that you'd have about the item. If we were to reference this page, we would then, this volume, we'd have to have information from the title page and the copyright page. Most often, that's where you want to look. And then the specific page that you're sourcing, the page number. Let me show you another resource. Here's now a book entitled Walford, A Tribute, edited by Donald Campbell. Edited by means there's a number of other people who wrote chapters in this book, and the chapters will be listed individually by the author of the chapter, but I also have to give reference to this editor every time I reference a chapter in the book. So it's an article title in the book Walford, A Tribute, edited by Donald Campbell, published by Moody Press. See the next page. Well, now I took you right to the page, and we don't have the publication date, but we do want to have that. But here's the specific passage that we have. Walford, A Tribute. I forgot to list the page of who wrote it. Don't have the table of contents page there. But I'd want to look at the table of contents page to find out who wrote this article. And at the top it says a biblical defense. And I'm looking at page 82. And the article is a biblical defense of, I think it's premillennialism by Stanley Toussaint, but I need to put that in there. That's in a book that's a chapter in a book written by multiple authors. Now, here's one more example from a journal, Bibliotheca Sacra. Now, here we have the publishing information about this specific journal on this copyright page, but it's also at the top of every page in the volume. Your contents page lists all the articles. The articles are always listed in quotation marks with a specific author. Notice the authors: Howard Marshall, Forrest Wayland, Eugene Pond, Chris Miller, and the different parenthetical chapters. In Bibliotheca Sacra is the book. And the editor, Roy Zook. That's who I'd want to list here. I don't need to list all these others, just Roy Zook, editor from Bibliotheca Sacra. The specific article, notice at the top, most journals will put the bibliographic information that I need, Bibliotheca Sacra. It's volume 159, specifically July, September that year, the year, and then the pages inclusive for that article. You need to include those page numbers in a bibliographic entry. If you're quoting this specific page, then it's page 318. I'm going to quote from this first page here. By this author, James Sweeney, who wrote this. Sweeney's the name that comes first in the bibliographic entry, the footnote, then this title of the chapter, and then Bib Sacra is the book, editor, dates. All right, when you get into Turabian and you see the examples that I give, I'm going to give you examples. So you have to go to Turabian, find out how to footnote and write a bibliographic entry for each type of entry that we commonly use. Those would be the nature of the practices. So get out Turabian, use it, and find the right answers, and you'll do well in those assignments. The last thing to do for this week is to read the first 3 chapters of Continuity, Discontinuity. And in this first chapter, you're going to hear a historical background to the problem, continuity and discontinuity, the debate throughout church history. Primarily, the question is, as the subtitle has for the book, perspectives on the relationship between the Old and New Testaments. Well, not only do you see how people write when they do research on a topic and try to prove a thesis, right, that's part of it, but here at Calvary, we have an understanding of a biblical or hermeneutical perspective, a normative hermeneutic, a grammatical, historical, literal hermeneutic, But how does that play out when the New Testament author quotes an Old Testament passage, but it doesn't look like he's using the passage contextually? Then how do you deal with the passage in the New Testament? How is the author dealing with it? That's the major underlying question that's raging out there in theological circles at times. That's the nature of the book that I'm reading currently. The Old Testament in the New is the title of the book by Dr. Michael Vlach at Shepherd Seminary in South Carolina. Now used to be at Master's Seminary for a while. Well, wade into those books and let me know any questions that you have. Let me look back through my notes for the day. I think I've covered all I need in this first session. Let me know as soon as you can any questions that you have and any issues you have with the course or finding materials, and we'll make sure you get it so you learn how to write and to write well. Have a good week in the Lord, guys. Talk to you either through the week or next week.